I'm really curious to hear what motivated you to write about this.
I think it's a combination of really great experiences and some experiences that were like disappointing, and also having great conversations with our strength and conditioning community. It just seems like one of those things that we talk about a lot, but we don't ever talk about to our sport coaches. And I think that a lot of our sport coaches are really well intentioned, and they obviously, having been a sport coach, right, they have a lot on their mind. They're thinking about a lot of things, and a lot of these things are things that are maybe really easy to overlook or forget or just bypass unintentionally. And I was just really excited to share with other sport coaches about just a little insight into our world and things that matter to us.
Hello, welcome to Season 5 and another great episode of the Big Time Strength Podcast. We have a great show coming up for you. First, let's take a deep dive into our sponsors. Our first sponsor, TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr is the software for strength and conditioning coaches. Join the thousands of coaches that log into TeamBuildr every day to write training programs, build questionnaires, and access and track athlete data. TeamBuildr is compatible with mobile devices, laptops, tablets, TVs, and now wearable devices, which makes it the perfect software for any setting. If you sign up with the code BIGTIME, you will receive a 25% discount on the Sports Science Certification course. Build the foundational skills necessary to manage data and learn how to transform that data into actionable assets for your program. You will also receive a free 10-week football programming template, which works automatically within your TeamBuildr 14-day free trial. No more spreadsheets and workout cards to track training maxes that change day by day, especially during breaks. Head to teambuildr.com and sign up with the code BIGTIME to save time and paper today. This episode is also brought to you by PowerLift. Taking your athletic facility from concept to completion can be a challenge. At PowerLift, it's their goal to make the process as seamless as possible from start to finish. Their weight room equipment is made of the toughest materials that can withstand excessive use from coaches and athletes alike. It's sought after for its unique design, customizable appearance, affordability, and their superior warranty that training facilities want and need. Their weight rooms are designed with the athlete in mind, and they pride themselves on the ability to outfit athletic facilities based on a team's unique goals. That's why high schools, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, and athletic performance facilities around the world have chosen PowerLift to help maximize their strength training facilities. Call them today to be contacted with a rep in your area and give them a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to see for yourself why their clients are PowerLift proud. This episode is also brought to you by Vitruve. Vitruve is a velocity-based training system designed for colleges and high schools around the world. It is accurate, reliable, and affordable. The software is quick and easy to set up and use with a whole room of athletes simultaneously. Coaches have chosen Vitruve because it simplifies VBT and allows them to seamlessly integrate it on a daily basis. Check out Vitruve now for your school's free demo unit.
I'm really curious to hear what motivated you to write about this.
I think it's a combination of really great experiences and some experiences that were like disappointing, and also having great conversations with our strength and conditioning community. It just seems like one of those things that we talk about a lot, but we don't ever talk about to our sport coaches. And I think that a lot of our sport coaches are really well intentioned, and they obviously, having been a sport coach, right, they have a lot on their mind. They're thinking about a lot of things, and a lot of these things are things that are maybe really easy to overlook or forget or just bypass unintentionally. And I was just really excited to share with other sport coaches about, just a little insight into our world and things that matter to us, because we get to hear pretty often about things that matter to sport coaches. And I think that in order for us to have great relationships with sport coaches, that needs to go both ways.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this. Well, we're here today with Jessica Gust of St. Louis Park, Minnesota. We asked her to join us on our crew chat today, one, because she is the newest member of our team and helping us out with our social media. So she does great stuff with that. And two, she has just put out what I think is one of the most tangible and important Twitter threads that I've seen. I can imagine this turning into a presentation, something that you'd present to your activities directors to support your sport coaches, and it would be able to go to any sport clinic. So we're here today and talking about that. And it's called originally it was the top 10 things that a sport coach can do to support a strength and conditioning coach, but it turned into 11, and I'm sure it could probably turn into a few more. And this hit me kind of just in a randomly perfect timing of everything. I had just had a conversation with our head football coach, who is as a strength coach, my biggest supporters. But we were having the conversation where he had said, what could I do to support you more? And he has, seen my frustration, I think, sometimes with either other programs or maybe different coaches. And I told them, what you're doing is enough, but I couldn't really say it in a tangible way. Like, because you do this, this, and this is supportive. And then literally 5 minutes later, you sent me this text and said, I'm thinking about something. What do you think? I was like, oh my gosh. And so I asked him if I could talk about, I said, I know that was a conversation that you and I had, in private, but I need to talk about this, and I needed to have you talk about this. So we are going to go with it today. And Preston, I see you've already tweeted it out. So that means the whole strength and conditioning Twitter universe knows about it, right?
If it gets to me, then most everybody else has seen it. Yes. I think that's what you're saying.
No. So going viral as we speak, but we're going to get into it. And I want to hear from you, just your thoughts on what made you write all of them. And we'll go with that. So do you want to start at the top or start at the end?
Yeah, I'll start at the top. I tried to put them sort of in order of what felt like would be the most impactful to me. And obviously this is my perspective as a coach in a public high school. I realize everybody's situation is different, and the sport coaches that everybody deals with and has dealt with in their career is very different. So this is just sort of like the vibe from me over the last 13, 14 years and some experiences that I've had. So my number one that I listed was make participating a priority for you and your athletes. Send a message by prioritizing your in-season time and prioritizing your athletes' attendance. I really can't express enough how many great experiences I've had with coaches that make their in-season lifting time an absolute requirement. It is an expectation that they are there. And it's really, really obvious on my end what messages are getting sent from coaches to the kids based on how they show up in the weight room. So for me, number one, and this is something that I've been working on for years, is just getting all of our teams to participate and value their in-season lifting. Because when they start to value their in-season lifting, it's more likely that they're going to value the off-season work too.
I think the coolest part about that is just being able to take a look at the whole student population, right? And you probably have multi-sport athletes and what that looks like, and see like, okay, how can we get every sport coach involved? Means how can we get every one of our multi-sport athletes or every one of our athletes good opportunities throughout the whole year? And I think that's normally my perspective is, what does it look like to get quality year-round training? And if you don't have sport coaches that are involved, if you don't have sport coaches that are willing to like help you get those kids in the room, it is so tough, because then you're just fighting an uphill battle. So I think your number one to start off is has to be, one of the first things talked about.
Yeah, totally. And then the next one that I put after that is take the time to learn what strength and conditioning can actually do to help your athletes. And I think this is a really innocent accident sometimes that sport coaches make, is that they have a perception of strength and conditioning either from their time as an athlete or their coach that they've worked under, or whatever situation they've come from. They have some type of perception around strength and conditioning and what it can and can't do. And I think that it is 100% worth the pause to take the time to verify that what you think you know about what strength and conditioning can do for your athletes is actually true. And is the message that you're delivering helping or hurting how those kids are going to show up in the weight room?
Yeah, this is a good one. I like how you said it's innocent. I think coaches, especially probably head coaches, feel like they need to know it all or learn it all. And it's really hard to give those reins to us sometimes and just, there you go. But when you do, I think it's very freeing from what I've seen. But yeah, just going with this is what we're supposed to do, or I'm sure just like we get caught on strength and conditioning social media, they can get caught on their sport social media and see so much sport specific stuff and all this stuff that, is it really right? Is it wrong? So I like that you commented on that.
Yeah, and I think that piece is where, when sport coaches have taken the time to learn how it can be valuable, it automatically increases the level of trust that goes between those two coaches, right? So it changes the dynamic between how the strength coach communicates with the sport coach and how the sport coach can communicate with the strength coach when they're both on the same page of understanding the value of how strength and conditioning can contribute to your season.
Yeah, that's good. All right, number three.
Number three, take the time to understand the why behind your strength and conditioning program. So ask questions and get curious. You might find some hidden gems in how your strength coach is operating that are different from how you think about stuff. So the way that I put it in the tweet was that we operate under different parameters, and we all understand as strength coaches what that means because we have limitations based on equipment or group size or any of those things. But it creates a different way of thinking in how we plan and program. And I think as a sport coach, anytime you get to talk to somebody that either coaches in a different school with a different level of team or with a different set of parameters, you can learn a really lot about how you choose to do things and how maybe you could choose to do things differently, just because you've never thought about it that way before. And I think that going to your strength coach, because we have been forced to operate within very strict time constraints and very strict equipment constraints and space constraints, I think most of us are really super creative in how we use our time and how we practice plan. And I think that sport coaches could totally pick up a gem here and there from their strength coach about how to manage their time in practice to maybe create a little bit more efficient experience for their kids that are in their sport. So it was I think about that book Range and how it talks about how teams that have a variety of experiences are more efficient and they work better together because everybody's drawing from a different sort of set of skills, and taking advantage of just understanding how your strength coach is making decisions could change a little bit about how you think about how you practice plan for yourself.
Man, I hear this and I'm like, man, this is such a two-way street, right? Like when we invite them into our world, if we hop into their world too, like if we stop by practices and if we see them on the court or the field or the diamond or whatever it is, like being able to do those things just begs conversation, right? Like, oh, I see this in your athlete. What's the best way for me to handle that in the weight room or within training, right? And then they start to get interested in how you do things too. So yeah, I think that's a really awesome way for coaches to hop on board, is just by like being interested in what they've got going, and then they start to get interested in what you've got going. So number 3 was very, I don't know. I think when anybody hears the why behind something, they're more hooked, right? They're just more bought in.
And this made me think about how in, our football program, I've been trying for quite a few years for a Friday weightlifting session, and how in general, I just wanted to really focus on maybe foam rollers, recovery, and just a little bit of fast and feisty stuff, but it was really hard to convey to the coach. And so this year when we had that group chat with the team about it, I told them about simply we just want to foam roll, and the kids, come in, and we didn't do it on Friday nights, but he's like, I'd really like to do it both home and away. And so we bought foam rollers and bought lacrosse balls, and now they're just simply going to take them with them. They're going to have them out on the field and then take them with them. If I hadn't given the why, instead of just saying, I want to lift on Fridays for, 20 to 25 minutes really fast. Now, since we have the why, we're accomplishing those goals. So yeah, sometimes it's on our part too, just them asking the questions and us saying why we wanted to do stuff. So I love that one.
I think sometimes leading with the why is so much better than the what, right? So like if you go in and you say to the football coach, right, like, hey, I've been noticing, whatever it happens to be, here's a solution that I think might help out with that, and then give them the what after. It's sort of that old trick of, right, like make it their idea, right? So it's that one I think is, Preston, you're totally right, goes both ways. And if you show up interested and actively learning about how your sport coaches are operating, it's going to go both ways. Cool. So my number 4, this is the one that has gotten the most action on Twitter, which I think is fascinating. This is the one that seems to be resonating with the most people. And it's just understand that your strength and conditioning coach is thinking bigger than your season. Your strength and conditioning program is designed to manage the demands placed on your athletes all year, not just in season. And if you're prioritizing training in season, you're supporting athletic development for your athletes' other sports at the same time that they're in your sport. And if you're choosing to opt out of in-season training or not prioritizing it, you're contributing to training gaps that are impacting other teams and individual athletes that are not yours. So it's sort of that whole like takes a village situation, right? Especially when we're dealing with multi-sport athletes. If they have one sport coach that's not opted in to in-season training or doesn't prioritize it, doesn't make them understand how important it is, that athlete that's maybe a 3-sport athlete has a training gap, a 3-month training gap in there that's now impacting how they're going to show up for their other 2 sports.
Yeah, and I think of oftentimes not supporting your athletes by encouraging them to be in the facility in their off season. If they're not in season in another sport, that can have a huge impact on it too. So I saw this, it got a lot of buzz. I like it. I think, well, as strength coaches, yes, we are always thinking, what's next? So
I want to hop in on this one too, because I think it resonates with me the most. And it's primarily just because I'm at a middle-sized school, meaning that we do have a lot of multi-sport athletes, like I've said earlier in the podcast. And so for some strength coaches, this doesn't resonate as well. But if you have anybody that's a multi-sport athlete, then it starts to see, okay, when your football coach impedes upon the wrestling, and the wrestling impedes upon track, and the track, and at least in the state of Iowa, impedes upon baseball, or vice versa in any of these ways, like, it's just like, the stress isn't put in the right spot. It's not on the coach that makes it more stress. It's the athlete. And that's the opposite of what we want, right? Like we want a great experience for all of our student athletes. So that's something that I'll always want to stand up for, is just making sure that the student athletes are kind of held at the center of that. And when you're a sport coach, you're kind of only in your silo, where we're having conversations with the athletes literally every day, the whole year. So like, what better way to kind of understand what they're going through than just having those conversations?
Yeah. And I think it takes away some of that awkwardness that sort of comes with multi-sport athletes, where now kids are being forced to choose, right? And that's a horrible position to be in as a kid. And that's not something that I think any well-meaning sport coach would do on purpose. But it's just a really easy way to take that off the kid's plate and just say, like, you know what, we're going to take care of this for you in season, right? We're going to go as a team. You don't have to worry about doing it at another time. So it takes just one more decision off the kid's plate and simplifies their life a little bit if they know that all of their sport coaches are on the same page.
All right, we're ready. Moving on.
So number 5, this is one that that I recently, I mean, I've been doing this for years, right? And I just recently started really verbalizing to my sport coaches, because they always tell it to me, right? Like they tell me, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's the whole point. You know, like number 5 is speak up about how in-season training has helped your team. Speak up about it. Talk about how important it is, because there are some coaches that need to hear from other sport coaches before they will trust to go back and do number 1, which is get their kids involved in in-season training, right? They, for some reason, you know, that social capital of another sport coach being able to say, hey, it really helped me. I think the more sport coaches talk about, like, you know, our basketball coach talks all the time about how many fewer injuries they have in season. And the swim coach talks about how much better their taper is and all of these great things. And they tell it to me, and I'm like, that's awesome. And I love that. Thank you for the feedback. But also, can you please go say that to my other coaches that are kind of resistant to get their kids in, or to the other coaches that have a hard time messaging why it's important? So just open your mouth and talk about how it's helping. And that makes it's free advertising for us and free advertising for you, because it makes your program better, it makes my program better, and it makes more kids get involved.
This seems like marketing 101, right? Word of mouth is always going to be the most impactful when it's closest to the customer. So not to go all business, but that's so true. Like, no, I like that. So speak up about how in-season training has helped your teams. I normally, I think about how it helps other teams too. Like I'll talk about that with our kids, and then their kids talk about that with their coaches. And those are the conversations that come up. It's like, okay, well, here's some of the best teams in the state and they're doing it like this. What do you think? What should we do? You know, and like, we just won a state championship this past summer in softball, and our girls, they asked Coach Brand, they said, hey coach, what time are we lifting on game day? You know, is the championship day, you know, and they're asking what time are we lifting? They're not saying, are we going to lift? They said, what time? And that's the culture that I love. And that's because it's been built up. And that's because there's so many people, you know, at Mount Vernon, our coaches that have seen success in other sports and in other, you know, arenas within the state, that they're like, we should be doing this, you know? So it just makes sense.
Yeah, this is something our head football coach did too, above and beyond, that really stuck out to me after this, where he talked about the strength and conditioning program at a press conference at the state tournament. And, you know, we went on to be state champions. And so not only just sharing it with our sport coaches, but sharing the importance of it with all of football and all of sport coaches. So yeah, word of mouth is hands down the best advertising for our program.
Yeah, for sure. And then number 6, which kind of flips that back to, you know, like us doing the publicity, is invite your strength and conditioning coach to your preseason parent meeting. I don't know what the requirements are in other states, but our district, and I think kind of across the board in Minnesota, the expectation is that coaches are having a preseason meeting with all the parents and all the athletes. And we don't get much opportunity to get in front of parents, right? It just is, we don't get that captive audience very often. And so if you can invite your strength coach to your preseason meeting and just give them 1 to 2 minutes to talk about what their plan is for the in-season lifting and why it's important, and also what's available in the off season and how their kids can get involved the rest of the year, that's an opportunity, a captive audience for us that we don't really get in any other venues. Like we don't get that opportunity super often. So if we can get in front of every group of parents for just 1 minute, right? Like, here's my face. This is what I look like. If your kids are talking about me, this is who I am, right? Like, and making it so that all of the parents in the district know that this program exists. Because one of the things that we found is that every once in a while we run into people that are like, oh, we didn't even know this was an option.
Yeah. And I think this is why what you put out is so important, because I don't think a head coach ever purposely would be like, we're not having our strength coach there, but it's just a slight, right? It's just you don't even think about it. It's not tradition that's what happens. So it's easily why, I mean, I think this is one of the most important ones, because what this list does is just, it's a toolkit and something you just didn't think of and you can add and easily support. So way to go.
So the number seven was invite your strength coach to your banquet or celebration or whatever you happen to have. And it literally is, this is like, for people who know me, this is very not like me, right? But this is like the warm fuzzy part, right? Like, just to be able to go and celebrate the kids and be there again with kids and with parents and have an opportunity to chat with them. And, you know, the times where I've gotten invited to banquets and, you know, head coaches up there just, you know, giving shout outs and, you know, like, hey, thanks to Coach Gust for providing our strength and conditioning. And like, it just is a really nice way to recognize the effort and the time. Because one thing that I've noticed, the more that I've gotten away from sport coaching and been spending more and more time in the weight room and now not sport coaching at all, it's a little bit of like, oddly, a little bit of validation that I think we miss out on when you're the sport coach and you get that automatically, you know, wins and losses, and, you know, you come to the end of the season, you have a celebration, all of these things. And it's something that I miss a little bit, is being able to be around sort of that celebration. And, you know, the recognition obviously for us is really nice, but also to be there and see the kids get their awards and, you know, give them high fives and congratulate them on all their awesome work too is an unbelievable feeling. And without sport coaches including us on that, we just miss out on it. And it's not tragic, but it's nice. You know, it's a nice thing to be included in.
Yeah. Anytime when you're included, it feels better, right? Especially when there's food. So I could get on.
I love the food. Preston, how many have you been invited? I mean, I'm curious to hear, you know, with.
No, actually not. And I don't think I had never thought about it, but I like that idea. I mean, if I asked one of our sport coaches if I could go, I bet you they'd say yes, but like, it just hasn't ever crossed my mind. So I think I was going to say that with this next one when I hopped in, but one of the things that I think that would be really cool is, you know, sharing this list with athletic directors is the number one way to do this, because who's going to impact every one of your sport coaches? It's like, yes, we are, but we're not we're not the direct report. We're just working with, we're almost an assistant on every one of the staffs. Right. And that's the way I like to look at it anyway. So like, to get an athletic director that says this in the head coaches meeting at the beginning of the year, say, hey, just so you know, like, anybody that you, that's a part of your program, just invite them to celebration, you know. And that could be even people that are just help people, you know, like scorebook keepers and, you know, support staff, the athletic trainer, us, you know, like, I think that's just a really cool move.
Yeah, I like that. How about you, Jess? Have you been invited?
Yeah, I have. And that part of the reason why I thought of this one is because it has happened and it's been so delightful to go and sit. And you know, it's kind of funny is like, as a sport coach, I always was like, oh, the banquet, right? Because you have to like get up and talk and do all the things. But when you get invited just as a guest, it's really fun because you just get to go and sit there and enjoy it and clap for the kids. And you know, there's like no pressure. You don't have to get up and like give the whole speech, the whole thing. So my football coach and this actually goes back to several football coaches ago. My football coaches have always been really great about inviting me to the banquet. And, you know, obviously 26 sport banquets in a year would be a lot of, you know, Sunday nights to give up or whenever it happens. But, you know, to get to as many of those as you're invited to is always really nice. And so that one made the list because it's happened to me and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's happened to me the last 3 years have been where I've been invited, and you could see other, you know, programs. And then I said, I went to this programs, would I be able to go to yours? And same thing, just never even thought about it. And then I had a coach actually come to me last year, which I thought was great, is they had me give an award for the team. And we call it, we're the Chargers, we call it the Hard Charger Award. So for the athlete that, you know, gave it the best in the weight room. So I'm going to ask coaches this year if I could do that as well with as many programs as who will let me. So just a little above and beyond that.
I love that idea. That's so cool.
Yeah. All right. We're going. I love this. God. All right. What do we got?
So number 8, put them on the list, right? Everybody wants to be with the band. We all want to be with the band, especially when it saves us $15 of admission to a section game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, probably varies between states. And I've actually asked our high school league before, like, is there a way that we could get strength and conditioning coaches some type of pass so that we don't have to pay, you know, for all of these events that we go to? And don't tell anybody, but like, you know, even if I'm not listed as the school supervisor, a lot of times if I go to away games and they want me to pay, I'm like, I'm here to supervise the students for St. Louis Park. And they're like, okay, come on in. But they get really picky when it comes to sections and state here in Minnesota, right? So, you know, I'm headed to watch the baseball team play at sections, and that can be 3 or 4 games, and it's $10 a game to get in. Right now, all of a sudden I'm out $40. And if I do that with every team, right, it adds up a lot. So if you can, I know typically for us, right, each head coach gets to submit a short list of names of people that they can get in for free to sections and state. And obviously we want to include their families and all of that. But if there's a spot, right, put your strength coach on the list or ask them if they're planning on coming and put them on the list. And that one, our baseball coach is actually great about that. He always makes sure that I'm on the list and makes it so that I can get where I need to be and support the kids in the best way possible. So I just remember our football team made it to state for the very first time a handful of years ago. And I was so excited to go to the game and go down to US Bank Stadium and get in line. And it was like $16 to get into a high school football game. Like, I shouldn't be able to get into a Twins game for cheaper than I can get into a high school football game, right? Like, that just doesn't seem right to me. And of course I paid it. I was so thrilled for them to be there, but it's just one of those things that adds up over time, right? It just adds up over time and just kind of grinds your gears when you're like, I'm here to support my kids, giving up my time, and now I have to pay more money. So it's just another one of those small things, right?
Yeah. No, I experienced that last year too. And then he had a family of 5 with it. Oofta. There you go. So yeah, that really helped for that one. So lots of money. All right, we're cruising.
So number 9, if you make a program, just list them on the program. It doesn't cost you any extra, right? Just type their name on there, down there at the bottom where it talks about athletic office staff, principal, superintendent, right? Throw your strength coach on there. If you make a fancy one, maybe throw their picture in there with their name or whatever. But that kind of goes back to the one about getting in front of people, right? It's a way for people to know and understand that the district has a strength coach, know and understand that there's somebody there who's qualified, who's working with their kids, connect a name with a face. It's such an odd phenomenon. I find, like, I will coach kids I can get kids when they're 6th graders, right? So I could coach kids for 7 years and like never have met their parents face to face. Like, I couldn't pick them out of a crowd just because of the situations, you know, with strength. It's like parents don't show up to the weight room really super often, right? So a lot of them I've emailed with but never met in person. And so if you have a program there, It's really nice because then parents can see what you look like, and then they'll come and find you, right? Like they'll come up and talk to you at a football game or at a soccer game or something and be like, oh, hey coach, thanks so much for the work you do with my kid. But otherwise they wouldn't know who we are, right?
Yeah. And once again, I think that's an easy way for your administration. So our athletic administration puts those programs together with the help of the sport coaches, but like that would be easy for, once again, athletic trainer, scorer table person, strength coach, whoever's just like the support staff, just like a little recognition in there, because all these people are doing it for, like, especially the people that are doing like the scores table and stuff, like that's out of the goodness of their heart. A lot of times there is no incentive at all other than you're just helping. So it's just a nice, easy way to do that. If somebody leads up your concession stand, just put the lead on there. I think all those times people appreciate that, and they'll do some awesome volunteer work, and the work that we do outside of just our regular school day is immense. Anytime you get any recognition for those things, it's really cool. It feels awesome, no doubt.
Yeah. And I will say, I'm glad that you said that, because I think that this entire list also should apply to your athletic trainer. Like the whole list. I really believe that, like, as I've got a great relationship with our athletic trainer, and we work together on a lot of stuff. We partner on rehabbing with kids all the time. I stop into his room, he stops into my room, we're everywhere together. And I think that they sort of have the same experiences with, is they're just an easy person to overlook when you're thinking about this stuff, because they're sort of just like always there, and we're sort of just always there. And, we're easy to forget about, even though it's accidental, right? So number 10, when you do your apparel order, right? T-shirts aren't that strength. Hey, if you are listening and you don't know enough strength coaches are suckers for T-shirts. Okay. Like,
yes,
I've never met a strength coach that didn't like a free T-shirt. So when you make your apparel order, throw an extra T-shirt on there, a hat, whatever it happens to be, something small and easy that, is just a really nice gift, so that they can support, when I get dressed in the morning, I'm like, what teams am I going to see today? And I dig through my T-shirt collection and try to find one for one of the teams I'm going to see that day and throw that on. Makes getting dressed easier, but also it's really nice because then the kids are walking around and they're like, oh yeah, hey coach, we'll see you later in the weight room, right? And I think that the kids like it too. So if you can, right, obviously we all know working in public school, right, the money can be an issue, but if it's something that's feasible, right, throw an extra T-shirt on there, because otherwise we want to support, right? Like I got suckered into buying like $100 worth of girls swimming apparel because it was so cool. Like last week they were like, coach, you want to buy some stuff? And I was like, well, that's cute and that's cute. So I ended up spending like $105 on it, which is fine, totally my choice, right? But it's also super cool because swimming is one of the teams that always gets me a shirt. They bring it to me and wear it to their meets, wear it to school, all that kind of stuff. And I did put on this one just sort of to be funny, but also it would be amazing, right? If you want to get the head coach gold star, when you order coach's gear for your staff, right? Order the same stuff for your strength coach, especially if it's a team, especially if it's a team where like the strength coach is really deeply involved in your schedule for the week, right? And like Preston said earlier, we really are just an assistant coach to every head coach in the district, right? So if you're ordering coach's gear, right, I guarantee your strength coach would love to have that same stuff. And again, if the money works out or your booster club is awesome in that way, that'd be super cool.
And there's a lot of special occasions, like I think of Tackle Cats night, or, just different promotions there. You could bring your strength coach along for the ride. So key. Well, this is a great list. And what made you like, I need to have more? What made you think about more?
I did the 10, and then of course I'm thinking, I sent you the list of 10 and I was like, what do you think about this? And then of course instantly, right, like more ideas are coming to my head. But this last one to me is like, I don't know how other districts do it. I've only ever coached in 2 districts, and one of the districts I was only assistant coach, so I really didn't have any idea. But in our district, our coach or our AD comes to the head coaches before every season and says, hey, what equipment do you need? you have X amount of money. What equipment do you want? And so the sport coaches get new equipment every year, X amount of dollars worth of new equipment, whether it's basketballs or lacrosse balls or whatever it happens to be. And, you know, I was just thinking that we get 26 teams worth of wear and tear on our equipment. And my AD is amazing. If I go to him and I say, hey, I need to replace some XYZ, like he's great about getting that and making it happen. But all of that wear and tear is really coming from every team that comes in to participate. And I was just thinking, like, okay, even if you had $25 left when you fill out your equipment order form and you say, like, hey, athletic offices, I want you to order, right? And you're like $25 under budget. Can you throw on another set of cones, or can you throw on a couple sets of bands to help out your strength coach? Because if you think about that, $25 or $50 times 26 teams means now we don't have to stress about replacing the stuff that we lose to wear and tear, right? Obviously, we know it's a weight room. We're going to have to replace weights if they break. We're going to have to replace bars if they break, you know, all that kind of stuff we know. But that wear and tear on that little stuff really adds up over time. And if we had just a little tiny bit of support from every team, man, that's a lot of stress, because strength coaches don't really want to go out and fundraise either, because they know that their kids have done 3 fundraisers already for their different sports, and now we got to fundraise for the weight room. Like, it's just one more of those things. Like, we don't want to force the kids to do that. And so if sport coaches are able to throw $25 our way, that takes care of our disposable stuff for the year, and we don't have to worry about it. So that one for me was more just I mean, I've obviously thought of like a whole bunch of other things you could add to this list, but the point isn't, can we list everything? The point is, can we just open sport coaches' eyes to what the opportunities are, right?
Yeah, that's awesome, right? This list is just a beginning. It's a mindset, all it is, right? Like if you'd start at 1 and you just switch your mindset of, okay, I'm just going to include the strength coach in a different way, or I'm going to think through the strength coach's eyes, then you start to see, well, we go all the way up to 20, 25, 30, you know, like it's a mindset shift. So I like that. And I think some sport coaches are right in line with that, and especially if they've ever been at the college level, because strength coaches at the college level, they're just an extension of the staff, right? So is the athletic training staff at the college level. So that's always cool to see. And then something else that I thought of while you're talking about, like, if they give you like the last 25 or $50 in their budget, if you go to your athletic director at the end of a fiscal year, normally they're trying to figure out, okay, where do we want to dump this money right at the end of the year also. And same with your building principal, right? Like they have money that they're going to use for desks or for lights or for just different things, even banners, and they have that set aside. If you go in and say, hey, I want some different signage in the athletic area, or if I want to do something specific, a lot of times they'll be like, oh yeah. And if you do it early in the year, right, tell them now. And then later on, you'd be like, hey, remember when we talked about that? And you said at the end of the year, this might be a possibility. How are we looking? You know, and just remind them every once in a while. A lot of times you can get money that way. So not to say like we always want to be begging, but if there's stuff that will impact every student athlete, it's always tied to the strength and conditioning coach, right? It always is.
Yeah, 100%. And working in a department other than PE, my real job is I teach science, and we every year get to the end of the year and say like, okay, we have X amount of dollars left. We need to spend it before the end of the year, because otherwise they're going to come back and think that we don't need it. So then they're going to reduce our budget for the next year, right? It's like that funny like school economics game that we all play. But another cool thing that happened for us this year is our district has, it used to be separate. We had a district foundation and a city foundation, and they merged. And this is just a nonprofit that provides grants to teachers, departments, and community organizations. And you can apply as an individual teacher, or you can apply as a department. And if you apply as a department, you can get more money. So we applied through the athletic department. My AD, I talked to him and I said, hey, are you guys planning on applying for one of these grants at all this year? If not, can I go ahead and apply on behalf of the athletic department? He said, yeah, sure, no problem. So I applied for a grant to get a bunch of cool new technology for the weight room, and was able to tie that to academic standards in the district, to the district mission, all of those things, and was able to get a pretty hefty chunk of money from the foundation And we'll be able to now access some VBT devices and a new timing system and an additional jump mat and all of those things. And obviously that's a very specific, narrow window of stuff, right? Because it's tied to academic standards. But there's I mean, I always say, like, there's always money. You just have to find it, right?
Yes.
Like, there's money. You just have to figure out where it is. So I guess, yes, 11 could probably be a much broader scope.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's always money. You just have to find it. I got to figure that out for my personal life, I think, too.
Investors, Preston.
Yes.
Investors, huh? All right. Well, yeah, you had made the comment, like, there's many more that we can add, but this is definitely just a talking point. What are you hoping is going to happen a little bit with this information? Like, for instance, do you see yourself a presentation? How do we share with other people? And then along with that, what should strength and conditioning coaches, or any coaches, and for that matter of our listeners, do with this information in the present?
Yeah. So number one, I'm hoping to have this published in our Minnesota State High School Coaches Association newsletter in the next edition of that. We're really fortunate as strength coaches. We were able to get included as like sport coaches. So now we can belong to the Coaches Association. And as part of that, the officers, we get to provide a little blurb in the newsletter every quarter. And so I'm hoping that we can get this in there because it would get in front of the eyes of all the sport coaches. We've also had, because we've been included in the Coaches Association, we now are having more sport coaches associations ask us to come and present at their conferences. So I'm hoping we can get in front of more sport coaches with this as a presentation, even if it is like a shorter, more informal roundtable kind of situation, whatever it happens to be. So on my end, that's kind of what I'm hoping for here in Minnesota. Relative to social media, I think like the coolest thing you could do, like for instance, like tag your AD, tag some of your sport coaches, or just retweet it so that the sport coaches that follow you can kind of passively see it and maybe take a look at it and really work on thinking about how many of these things are we, how many of these things am I doing? Am I doing any of them? Can I pick one of them? Can I just pick one? Like, what's one of these 11 things that I could do this season to help my strength coach feel a little bit more supported or more included, or for me as a sport coach to promote what my strength coach is doing.
All right. Well, you heard it here. This is great. Any closing thoughts, Preston?
Jessica, glad to have you on the team. Thanks for hopping in and sharing the wealth of information. And I appreciate everything that you're doing in the state of Minnesota, and I think that'll leak throughout the whole United States. I think that's something that every strength coach wants to feel valued in their place and in their school. And I think that's a great way, is through that list that you shared, and just reaching out to the coaches that they work with every day, establishing those relationships that are going to, I don't know. I mean, like that's what it matters in your workplace. That's what matters the most when you are going in every day, is like establishing those solid, I don't know, community type feel within those walls. And basically your 11 points that you had is just, how can you strengthen the community with your strength coach? So I like that.
Yes. And I am also so grateful just to have you on with us, and for you definitely in my life, to be able to run things by you and have you run things by me is, it is definitely great to just have you be a part of this now. So thank you very, very much.
Well, I'm super grateful to be part of the team and really excited to just keep thinking and keep sharing and see where it goes.
Wonderful. Well, this has been another episode of the Big Time Strength Podcast. If you can, especially this one, we'd love ratings, but more than anything, just if you think of somebody that could use this, make sure that you share it with them and just get this conversation started. And hopefully, I guess my dream is 10 years from now, this is just a standard. of how strength and conditioning coaches and sport coaches interact. So wonderful. We in Minnesota here, we start a little bit later than the rest of the country. So I know a lot of the country is back up and running with the school year. I hope your schedules are just getting in there and starting out smooth. And I hope you have great sports seasons and a great school year. Have a good week.